Good afternoon. I'm Diane Sare, LaRouche Independent Candidate for U.S. Senate in New York, 2024. I have comments to make on the possible arrest of former President Donald Trump, and I will do so now. It is time for the soap opera and horror film to end. Between our military adventures abroad and the suppression of the rights of our citizens within, our United States Republic has become an outlaw nation, spitting on the principles so poetically enshrined in our Declaration of Independence and Constitution. The question of justice, rooted in natural law, is a fundamental pillar of the legitimacy of government. For good reason, most Americans have lost faith that justice will be served and that truth has standing in our courts. Everyone believes that the continuous judicial hounding of former President Trump is an attempt by the judiciary to meddle in the 2024 presidential elections. But it is also an effort to get everyone to look the other way while your pocket is being picked by another round of massive bailouts of our bankrupt financial system. It is also meant to divert you from noticing that the Biden administration, along with the UK and NATO, are lurching toward a potential nuclear showdown with Russia and China, and that there is reason to believe that President Biden, along with members of his cabinet, such as Victoria Nuland and various British prime ministers, gave the orders to blow up the Nord Stream pipelines, for which no one is being held accountable. Therefore, if the credibility of our nation is to be restored and justice to be allowed to return to grace our once fair land, I would like to propose the indictment and arrest of 4 individuals who have committed far worse crimes than those allegedly committed by our former president. First of all, we have Barney Frank, former member of the U.S. House of Representatives from Massachusetts from 1981 to 2013, serving 32 years, many of them on the House Financial Services Committee. When my colleague LaRouche candidate Rachel Brown ran a highly visible Democratic primary race against him in 2010, she challenged him specifically on his support for the repeal of FDR's Glass-Steagall bank separation, which would have prevented what we are now seeing. Not only did he oppose Glass-Steagall, but he also co-authored the notorious Dodd-Frank Act, which allows the bail-in of depositors' accounts in favor of saving derivatives obligations. But after Barney Frank joined the board of Signature Bank in New York, he lobbied to eliminate his own regulations, lifting the limit of $50 billion in assets to over $250 billion, which helped to ensure the bankruptcy of Signature Bank today. Next, Jamie Dimon, CEO of JP Morgan Chase, about whom not much should need to be said, but if you have questions, you can ask former U.S. Attorney General Eric Holder. And finally, Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen and Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell, who, besides treasonously funding the Banderist regime in Kiev, prolonging a murderous war which should long have been over, and stealing the bank accounts of nations like Afghanistan, leading to mass starvation, just colluded with President Biden to violate the Federal Deposit Insurance Act, which insures up to $250,000 per depositor, with certain rational exceptions, by bailing out Silicon Valley Bank, Signature Bank, and Silvergate Bank in their entirety, thereby merely slightly postponing the inevitable doom of a rotten, overbloated system and increasing the indebtedness of the American people. Until the Department of Justice and FBI begin indicting and arresting the people who are doing the most harm to our nation and our people, we must presume they are acting in the interest of something other than our nation and other than humanity as a whole, which brings me to the 5th person who must be arrested, and that is King Charles, rather than President Putin by the International Criminal Court, whose policy initiatives on behalf of what he calls global Britain, if implemented, would lead to the death of billions of people. As a 33-year associate of the late economist and former U.S. presidential candidate Lyndon LaRouche, I am all too familiar with political witch hunts and public relations stunts which divert from ongoing real crimes. Let's get serious and lock up the right criminals this time.